Hello. At SUGCON, one of the most interesting sessions was the Sitecore Components in action from Sebastian Winter. Last week, this new low-code SaaS tool for XM Cloud is released as early access. With this tool, a non-developer, often business-side employee, can create components for XM Cloud and can connect to APIs for the data. This demo at SUGCON shows how it looks like.
Okay, let's not wait for that. So I have open component here already. Weird. So I have open components here already, and what we want to do is we want to create a component, right? So I told you the main sections or main areas of components are at the top here. So we have components, we can define our design system and styles, the data sources, and then publish something. So what I want to do is I want to add a new collection just for this, for the sake of the SUGCON. So I call it SUGCON Malaga. Save it. Damn it. Collection added, there we go. Yeah, let's add a new component. So I call that hero teaser. I can give it a description. I can select, I'm creating it now in the SUGCON Malaga collection, but I could also say, well, oh, that was the wrong one. I move it to any of the other collections I've created before. Well, I'm not going to do that. I just say, I create the component and start the editing process. So I can tell you it's way faster than it appears now. It's definitely the internet connection. Here we go. So you see we have a canvas here, and we can add now elements to it. So the elements we have defined, and I've defined already some, so that we can just start. And what I want to do is, I want to recreate this hero component that we have in Sitecore.com. So what I will do is, first I add a card, which holds then the text that we see. So we use a block element in the card, and just drop it here. So now the card is full width, but we want to make it like kind of half width. So I'm going back to the section, which is my white canvas, and I'm saying that I want to separate that into two columns. You visually see that here, that I do that. And now my card has half width. Let's try that. It should be here. I just continue. So what I want to do is, the easiest way is just to go back to this one here and just copy it. Because I can copy basically from everywhere, and it keeps the styles. So I'm just dropping that here. I think I dropped it in the wrong wall. So I'm sorry, I'm currently in this section, so I need to move to the card. Let me just add the card again and drop it here, so that looks better. So now I will add a button. So it's an inline element, and drop it underneath, add to the end of the card. And I will also add an image. Right, so I go back to the section and add an image, which is here. And what I want to do is I actually want to use the image that we find on Sitecore.com. So I go and check the URL of the image. And I'll find it here. I could upload an image as well. Here, and I just use the image from a different URL. So here we go. And I see that I did a mistake. I dropped it in the card, so let me just do that one more time. And image, and I want to have it here. That looks better. Here we go. Now, we saw it should be a background image, right? So it shouldn't be just, well, we could keep it like that, but that was not the target, so I just say it's a background image. Right, it looks pretty much as it should be, however, not exactly, and I've prepared another theme that I want to use now. So if I go here, and wait, oh no, sorry. If I go here to the default theme, I'm now applying my previously prepared dark theme, which makes it pretty much look like we have it on the website within, yeah, well, usually in a few seconds with enough sacrifices to the demo codes. Right, great. So we can stage the component and we can publish the component. So now we have a component that we can use in several areas. Right, let's go back to the slides. Right, and let's use our new component in Pages. So let's see. So the Pages editor has a native integration with Sitecore Components. So our components appear directly next to the components we used to use in Pages, so the ones we build with SXA, or just natively build with XM Cloud, so we have a second tab now, which is the front-end as a service tab, aside our normal components, and this is where our components appear, and we just drag and drop them onto the screen and build basically our websites with it. We can mix it with other SXA components or other components, and just have some Sitecore components in between, or SXA components as we need that. So let's also use that. So I've started Pages here already. Well, look like, yeah, great. So as I said, we have a front-end as a service tab and we have a components tab. So in the front-end as a service tab, if I refresh and the internet, yeah, it's faster. We see that we now have our SUGCON Malaga collection, so all the components are sorted into our collections, which makes it also easier to find them the more we have, right? So we can collapse the other ones if we don't need that, and we find in the SUGCON Malaga collection the component that we actually need. So the hero teaser, and we just drag and drop this as we used to do that. So it's getting loaded, and here's basically our new component, and we can also preview that and have our component in our normal SXA website. That's all. That's as simple as it shows, right? We just drag and drop. Right, so let's go back to the slide. Okay, so that was a simple component. Cost me a lot of nerves here on stage. But let's actually build something with external data sources. Let's see how that goes. So with external data sources, just to repeat that, we can import from any source. So as long as there's a REST API, which gives us a JSON, or wherever we have a GraphQL endpoint, we can pull that in. So that may be Content.1, but that could be also ChatGPT or XM Cloud or any PIM, for example. So The data sources feature currently allows to fetch data once, and that will be improved. So you will see that on the roadmap that also the data sources stay in sync, right? So whenever we have configured a connection to a certain third-party system, that we can keep synced live basically to the data. So whenever we change something in Content 1, we also want to see that wherever the component is used. Currently, it's a one-time fetch, and then we map it, and I will show that exactly now. So let's go back to the right. So what we want to do first is we want to configure our data sources. You see, I have configured already some, but let's just try a new one. So we call that SUGCON, SUGCON recipes. That's not connect recipes, but it's just real recipes. So if you get hungry, that might happen. So what we will use for it is we will need to. So I want to get data now from Content Hub 1. So I have a Content Hub 1 instance, and what I need is a URL for the endpoint, and then I also need to configure the API key. And then fetch the data and use the data in another component that I will create in a minute. Great. So let me just get my nodes. That should be it. So I'm using this endpoint, and in the header, I create a new attribute, which I need to connect to Content Hub 1. I will delete this API key after the session, so you need to be quick in order to connect it. Maybe. Great. So the next thing we need to do is actually build our GraphQL query. This is what we do in the body, and I use the Content Hub 1 GraphQL IDE for it. So I've prepared already a query here. So I have recipes in my Content Hub 1 instance, and I query them using the old recipe, and then get the results of the list of recipes. So the result looks like that, which seems to be fine. So I have here some delicious pizza, some whatever recipes, and I just copy this query here into components. So do it like that, fetch the data. There we go. So components identified all the fields that we have available, and it basically made a fetch to get the JSON response. So I save that and go back into the component builder and build a new component. So we call that recipe, save that, and start editing. Now I will place a card again, just here. I want an image in the card. That's what we have here, inside the card. And I also want some text, like a headline 3 maybe. I add it at the end. And I also want some text as a paragraph just after that. So for all the SXA fans, that looks pretty much like a promo component. And I'm going back now and say that I want to use that with my data collection, so with the data source I have prepared. So I go on my card and say, well, I actually want to repeat that map to my collection of data. And here I can select now the one that I created. So this is the SUGCON recipes. And I say it should be the results, so the list of results of recipes. And what you can see is it already replicates it. So, but it doesn't look good. So let's go to the section and say we actually want to have 3 in a row. And it looks odd to have a fourth one or a fifth one. We can't control that, how many results we have, or we could, but I haven't done that. So therefore we say on the data collection, we actually say that we want to limit it to 3. So that looks better. Now, it's not the data we have, right? So it's just random data displayed here. So we're going to change that in order to actually use the data source that we have. No, I don't want to leave that side. There we go. It's auto-save. It's safe. So we want to map that data. And I go now and select an image source. So we want to map the image, and it's a SUGCON recipe, so that has been predefined here already. And I need the I need the image URL, which I don't see here. I need to check. Let's go for the other ones first and fix the data. No, that's wrong. So here we go. We want a text, we want to map it, and we want to say it's our recipe title. Here we go. That's proper data. And now we want to map that as well, and we want to have our description text. So here we go as well, and let's try go to the data sources and see if we actually have a file URL here. So that looks pretty much okay. Do you need a file URL? It should be there. Let's look at the component. Let's see if it's image source, mapped, on recipes.
Is it cut from the overlay?
Overlay hidden, maybe.
Below.
Maybe it's
It's hidden from the
hidden from
overlay.
the overlay. It's below the.
Go on expert mode.
No, it's not.
No.
It's zooming out the image.
Okay, we need to live without images. I'm sorry. But I hope you get the point, right? So we have replicated now based on the data we have replicated the data coming from component 1. We fetched the data and show it here in our component, and now we can go the same path, publish the component, and use it basically in Axon Cloud and display it based on data coming from somewhere else. Right. So the next thing, going back to the slides again. We're already there. Perfect. So, even though Sitecore Components is a SaaS application, and you want to look probably also a bit behind the curtain, because usually we want to know how things work out to make better decisions on how it fits into the landscape of our client.